What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to discuss the truth about being a sensitive man. But before we dive too deep into that, if you all take anything from the content I put out there, if you like the content that I share, I really appreciate it. You can leave a like, a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can see more content like this and all the stuff. Okay, with that kind of stuff out of the way, let's dive into this and start with this. The truth about being sensitive man is we have to look at like a man who's sensitive. What's he sensitive to? Sensitivity could be a descriptive word for so many different things. Now, generally speaking, when people call another person sensitive, they're usually referring to like overly emotional or hyper emotional or reactive, right? So through that for a moment, we can see that a sensitive man is a man who's empathetic, a man who has heightened empathy. Now, what does empathy mean? Empathy is your ability to sense somebody else's emotions, right? The way I like to see this is we have a heightened emotional and energetic awareness. Heightened emotional and energetic awareness, meaning we pick up on other people's energy. We pick up on the energy in an environment, in a room, right? It doesn't have to be one specific person. If we walk into a meeting and there's 10 dudes in there, 10 dudes, 10 chicks, the collective vibe of the room, we can feel it. And then what happens is the mind starts to, we pick up on the energy, and then the mind starts to filter that energy through our own perspective on the world created by the neurological and psychological frameworks within our mind, right? So a sensitive man is a man who's sensitive to emotions and energy. We can pick up on and sense other people's emotions or energy. Now, the thing with this, it can be an absolute fucking superpower. It can be an invaluable skill set in the world, depending on what you want to do with your life and all the things that go into the daily components that you experience, right? So empathy or sensitivity to emotions and energy can be an invaluable skill set to obtain and acquire and cultivate. The key to that is cultivating it. When you are, coming out of the womb, naturally empathetic, you can naturally pick up on people's energy and emotions. You carry that with you throughout your life, and you find yourself being reactive and blowing things out of proportion, or just explosive anger, things of that nature. Then we're discussing a skill set that is underdeveloped or not developed, and that a skill set that is controlling you rather than you utilizing it. So empathy, when not harnessed, when it's not refined, when it's not cultivated, can become a double-edged sword. Again, it can be an invaluable skill set, and it can be a weapon that you can use against yourself. And what I mean by that is your mind will essentially trigger you into reacting to your own emotions. It can be weaponized against you in the media and all the fear mongering, right? So you watch the news. I mean, the news is very fear mongering in nature, and you're absorbing that energy, that emotional energy when you're consuming it, and then you're reacting from it. So maybe like another pandemic happens, and you just start reacting to all the things, right? I mean, it could be used in more individual one-on-one circumstances where you find yourself being taken advantage of or manipulated, right? Because you're sensing their energy, you're sensing their emotions, and you're a kind dude, you're a good man. You want to accommodate and be collaborative with people. And so you're picking up on their energy. They don't even have to say it, and you'll accommodate to them. And it just starts there. Maybe it's one time, then it compounds and compounds, and now people are just manipulating you and taking advantage of your kindness all day long, right? So again, empathy it can be an invaluable and a powerful skill set for a man to develop. And when it is not developed, and when this skill set is not refined, and when this skill set is not harnessed, it can be a weapon It can be weaponized against you. It can be weaponized by your being. Because your mind will just be reacting to emotions all day long. They can be yours, they can be something you're picking up on from somebody else. So then that leads us to the next point, which is an empathetic or a sensitive man who, you're watching this, right? And you're like, okay, well, how do I harness the skill set of empathy? How do I use empathy? And that comes down to emotional awareness. Now, there's two different ways we can go with this. We can go through the emotional awareness lens of recognizing how other people are feeling emotionally, which is something that probably already comes naturally to you. So we're not talking about that. We're just gonna put that over here, and we're not gonna touch it for now. We're talking about emotional self-awareness. Self-awareness of your own emotional state. And start to recognize what your emotions feel like within your body. There's going to be a physiological and a neurological or psychological component to the emotion you experience, because emotions have a chemical basis to them. There are going to be neurotransmitters that are coursing through your brain and your body when you have an emotional experience. There are going to be chemical reactions happening within your body when you have an emotional experience. For example, when parents have newborns, oxytocin is released. It is the love hormone that creates bonds for us within our own psyche. So it helps solidify neurological frameworks, neurological hardware, so that we know that we are bonded to that person through family ties, in a sense. Right? So there's oxytocin, there's serotonin, which is that feel-good hormone. It can be produced in a variety of different ways within the body. Right? There's melatonin that puts us to sleep. Right? And there's cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which could be related to fear and negative emotions a lot of the time. Not always, but it can be. So there's a physiological component to it. Like our brain and our body, there are things happening within both. And then there's the physiological response or reaction to the emotion. And then there is our psychological reaction or response to the emotion. So you feel an emotion, you feel the energy. How does your mind communicate next? Do you mentally immediately become reactive? And you can start to observe this about yourself. If this is really a skill set that you want to refine and harness, you can start to observe this about yourself when you're watching television shows. How do you react to the people and the experiences and the circumstances unfolding in the show? How do you respond? What are the mental thought patterns that your mind conjures up when you watch a TV show and you witness something happening? It can start to give you an insight as to your own emotional reactions to your own circumstances in your life. So emotional self-awareness is self-awareness, but of the emotions. And now we're just noticing how we are responding emotionally. What are we feeling? If you feel like you can't always recognize your emotions and you're just controlled by them, reacting all the time, I'm not saying this from a place of judgment because I've been there and I know what that's like. It fucking sucks. Then I want to invite you to begin the process of emotional self-awareness by recognizing the sensations within your body. If you have any pain, any tightnesses, any stiff muscles, joints, any nervy pinching sensations, any discomfort. Because the emotions are the language of the body. And in order to cultivate more emotional self-awareness, if we feel like we're really separated from that, from our emotions, then it helps to take a step back and start to tune back into the body by recognizing different sensations, feelings, experiences that the body's going through. Like right now, this happens to me all the time. I have a really tight hip, and it's usually one of the first, when I'm trying to tune into my body, it's one of the first key points that I tune into because it's the most predominant. It's caused the most pain within my body. A lot of my back pain stems from that. My right knee hurts as it stems from that. My breathing pattern's a little funky sometimes because of the right hip. Like there's all these different things happening. And so I usually tune into the right hip first, and I can feel it right now. My right hip is still a little tight. And I just listen to it. I feel it. That's what I mean when I say listen to it. I listen to it. Usually, when I start to notice the tightness in my right hip and all the associated feelings with it, the right knee, there's a little weird feeling in my right knee right here. My mind kicks in with all these patterns. It used to be like how much this hurts, how much this sucks, how much I want the pain to go away. Then it turned into me learning how to, educating myself in the human body and how to fix it. So then there was all these patterns of me fixing it, right? And then it turned into me just listening to it all. So it's like, there are levels to this stuff, but if you're at the place where you don't feel like you're that in tune with your emotions yet, and you can't listen to your emotions, what you're feeling, then start by listening to your body and just noticing the pain in it, noticing the discomfort in it, noticing the tightness, tight muscles, the tight tissues. Whatever you can experience, tune into your body, ground yourself and bring your awareness into your body, whatever you're feeling, and then notice the thought patterns that correspond with it. Because again, emotions have a physiological body sensation and they have a psychological mental thought processes. There's often going to be two different components to that. So that's how we can start to cultivate emotional awareness. When we start to tune into our body more, we can start to pay attention to our own emotions more. Now, why this is important and why this correlates to your natural raw ability to sense other people's emotions is because in order for an empathetic man, a sensitive man, to really harness this skill set, you have to be able to create discernible, distinguishable mental barriers and boundaries for yourself between you and the other person to recognize when you're picking up on somebody else's energy and their emotions and when you're picking up on your own. And this is how you'll really start to be able to take this to a whole new level of being able to recognize when you're reacting and when you're responding. Because when you start to harness this skill set more and you have these boundaries, these discernible psychological barriers, and when I say discernible and distinguishable, it's discernible and distinguishable for you within your own psyche. It's not something anybody will see. This is like an energetic, imagine like, we can't see air, right? You can't see oxygen, but we know it's there because if it wasn't, we die, right? So these distinguishable, discernible force fields or energetic fields that I'm talking about, these boundaries I'm discussing, these are something that you will know for yourself. It's a psychological thing for you. When you start to create these though, and you can recognize them, you may still pick up and absorb other people's energy. Because you are so in tune with your own emotional state, their emotions will just reflect off of you. You'll recognize it and you'll know how to navigate the situation accordingly because you've established these boundaries, but their energy, their emotions will bounce off of you and will reverberate back to them rather than you absorbing it and taking it on as yourself, taking it on as your responsibility, taking it on as something that you have to do something with. You don't, right? Because you've discerned, you've distinguished and understand what your emotions feel like, what they're like. And if you walk into a room and you were chill, you were cool, you were level-headed, and then you walk into a room with 3 people and you can feel the anger, you can feel the tension in the room when you walk in, and you've created enough emotional awareness to discern the difference between your energy and the room's energy or the other person's energy, now you're not taking on that tension as something that you have to use or you have to react from. Instead, you're recognizing, okay, the energy of the room is tense. I'm going to handle it this way. And again, this is a mental process happening so rapidly in the background because you have created these boundaries. So emotional awareness is really grounded in tuning into your body and understanding what your emotional experiences are like. And then to the next level is if we really want to elevate ourselves with our sensitivity, with our empathy, if you want to go to that next level, and it's not just about being okay with, like if you're here and you just want to accept the fact that you're sensitive, you're an empathetic man, totally cool. The rest of this video may not be for you, okay? The rest of this video may not speak to you. Because if we really want to take the skill of empathy to the next level and really begin to harness it and cultivate it and use it within our daily lives, like maybe you're a manager of sorts and you really want to use this to serve your employees better, or you're a business owner or something to that effect and you want to use this skill set to serve your community better, your business, your employees better, your constituents better, then it really comes down to healing the emotional wounds underneath of it all. Because the more that we can heal our own emotional wounds, the more it enhances our ability to hold space for bigger emotions, which allows us to hold a bigger space for the people we work for, the people we work with, the people that work underneath of us. But if you struggle to hold space for your own big emotions, you are going to struggle holding space for your coworker, your employee's big emotion. So if they're going through a really deep traumatic experience and it brings up a lot of shame, and you feel their shame, and you find yourself deterred from engaging in a conversation with them, but you don't want to be that way, you want to be able to be there for them, then that's where healing your own patterns of shame and holding space for your own shame comes into play. Because now what you can do is you can hold space for their shame because you felt the depth of yours. The more we heal, the more firm we become in our own boundaries, because we know what our needs are, right? We've met the needs of the wounded parts of ourselves, that deep wound of shame of our own, or guilt. We've gone to that deep depth of sorrow within ourselves. We've felt the depth of our guilt. We've felt the depth of our shame. And we can hold space for our own big emotions. Now we can hold a bigger space for other people's without reacting to it. If you're not okay with your own shame, if you're not okay with your own guilt, if you're not okay with your own anger, when other people express that in your direction, you will be more reactive because you haven't healed the wounded inner child within you. You haven't healed the wounds of those big emotions within you. The more you heal those, the more you meet the needs of yourself. These different subsections of your psyche that are deep locked within here. The more you heal those parts of your psyche, the bigger a space you can hold for other people. The more you meet your own needs. And the firmer your own boundaries become, because you know exactly what those feelings feel like within you. You know exactly what those emotions feel like within you. You know when it's being triggered by something outside of you, and you know when it's being triggered by something within you. And what I mean by that, though, in this context is, if you're having a conversation with somebody and guilt or shame is triggered within you, you can be like, well, 5 seconds ago I wasn't feeling that way, so this conversation was bringing this up. Let me not react to that. I'm just going to respond and show up accordingly. Take a deep breath in. Obviously you're not saying this all in the middle of the conversation, but you get the gist of where I'm going with this, right? Because the more we meet the needs of these wounded parts of ourselves, the firmer our boundaries become. And again, these boundaries are our own psychological energetic force field. The firmer we become in those boundaries, the more we integrate the wounded parts of ourselves into how we move throughout the world. The things that I used to feel ashamed of are not anything to be embarrassed of. They're not something that I run away from. They're not something I suppress. I've gone to the deep places within myself and felt the depth of my own shame. And now I don't move as if that's something to run from. I move in this world. Every action I take is a purposeful, intentional action that has integrated the shame from deep within me into everything I do. I used to feel ashamed for the way I used to act in relationships. So I became a better communicator. I alchemized that shame energy into becoming a better man. I used to be ashamed that I was 30 to 40 pounds overweight and an alcoholic. But I alchemized that energy. I took that shame. I healed that part of myself, and I alchemized that energy to get myself in a better shape, to eat healthier, redirect my willpower into not feeling sorry for myself, but taking decisive, discernible action towards the direction of the life that I wanted to live. So the more you heal these wounds, the more you can alchemize that energy and redirect it in a more positive, productive fashion that suits the life that you wish and desire for yourself, the life you dream of. And that ties perfectly into the idea of healing these wounds helps you meet your needs by fulfilling your own desires and dreams. I never had a desire to be 40 pounds overweight and alcoholic, but my life led me there. Meeting my needs meant taking responsibility for my health. And the more we can heal those parts of ourselves, meet our needs, integrate those wounded parts of ourselves into the actions we take every single day. There are days I don't want to work out. As much as I love training, and as 4 years of personal trainer ingrained it into my head of how much I enjoy working out, there are still days I don't want to work out. And I still do. Unless my body is really beaten up, you know? There's discernment there. So I hope this video has helped you all understand what sensitive men and what that means is all about. I hope it has helped you understand that sensitivity and empathy are skills. And by refining and working those skills, you can elevate your life in so many different ways. It's an amazing skill set to have. And if we don't learn to harness it, it can definitely be weaponized by ourselves and against us. If y'all took anything from this video, I'd really appreciate it. You could leave a like, a comment, and please subscribe to the channel. And one last thing before I wrap this up. If you guys are looking for something practical to take away from this, and you want to start learning and educating yourself more about emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, like that's definitely the subject line you want to go down, looking into emotional intelligence. There's one book that changed my life in understanding emotions and helping me understand my own emotions, because I was very gone in regards to, I was very ignorant to my own emotions for a long period of time. I had suppressed them for so long through my addiction to alcohol. There's a book called Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins. I'm getting emotional just saying this because that book changed my fucking life. I probably read it 30 times. And he does such a phenomenal job breaking down the different emotions and the energetic correspondence to them, and what you'll feel, what the mind says, and all the things you do. Absolutely life-changing. So if this video spoke to you and you're like, okay, I want to understand my emotions better, and what I just shared with you about my own experience resonates, please check out that book. It is so worth the 10 to 15 bucks that you will spend on it. With that all out of the way, thank you all so much for tuning into this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.